Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another interesting show based on the issues of theology. Today we're once again joined with our most esteemed guest, Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh, we've had a very interesting discussion over the previous episodes on the concept of leadership within Islam. And now we're unfortunately coming to the end of this amazing discussion. And we're going to touch on a topic which I think, if not, is as important as the first episode when we wanted to discuss the concept of leadership. Because this topic that we're going to discuss is really the crux of why we are here today and the decisions that we make today. So, my first question would be, at the final stage of creation and of existence, what is our role as a community of Muslims, and who is our leader, and what responsibilities does he have?
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Well, one of the main Islamic beliefs, as we all know, is the belief of the Imamah, the belief in the Khilafah and the Imamah of Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them all. In general, all Muslims agree and acknowledge the fact that there must be an Imam, there must be a Khalifa at least, somebody who represents the Holy Prophet of Islam, either with regard to the Shia as Imam and with regard to non-Shia as Caliph, as a Khalifa. And without that leader, the faith will be incomplete and the salvation will be impossible for the Muslims. So there must be somebody who represents this community of Muslims. Now, when we come to the fact of the Imamah, we see, the past years, hundreds of years, there was the fact that the Khilafah went on and on till the Ottoman Empire, which then was destroyed and removed. So now they don't have a Khalifa officially, somebody who represents the Muslims. This hadith is now raised, and I would basically ask the non-Shia, the Muslims in overall, with regard to this hadith, to think about and ponder. The hadith says, which is narrated in the Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, in the Shia books, main Shia books, Bihar al-Anwar, and so forth, with regard to the Imamah. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever dies before believing in the Imam of his time, من مات ولم يعرف إمام زمانه, that person would die not according to Islam, but according to paganism. مات ميتة جاهلية. Now, if I, na'udhu billah, die as a meat of Jahiliyyah and did not recognize an Imam, where would I go? The fate will be, na'udhu billah, hellfire. So today we ask the Muslims, who is your Imam of your time? Who is the Imam? Who is your, even let's say a Caliph of your time? Who represents your belief, your religion? There should be a man, a person, according to this hadith, which is narrated in Sahih Bukhari, that somebody must be there where you can give your pledge of allegiance, bay'ah, and believe in him. So when you die, at least you have an Imam you believed in, and you gave bay'ah to him, the pledge of allegiance. So you would go, inshallah, to the paradise. But without it, there's going to be trouble in the hereafter. So who is the Muslims' Imam of their time? Alhamdulillah, we as the followers of Ahlul Bayt, salamullah, in the school of Ahlul Bayt, we believe in the Imam Mahdi, Ajjallah Faraj Sharif, as the Imam of our time. And the name of Al-Mahdi alayhi salam, Ajjallah Faraj Sharif, is mentioned even in both books, the Shia and non-Shia. But the difference is they believe that he is actually not born. We believe that he was born and about 12th, 13th century ago, and he will reappear. But by all means, we still would ask those Muslims that to prove us who is their Imam, so they won't die as a Jahiliyyah. The matter is really serious.
In regards to this hadith, there are many questions I could ask. But before we get to hadith, because you know, as well as anyone, that hadith always comes under fire of being authentic or not, unless it's weighed up with something of more substance, which obviously would be the Holy Quran. Do we have any information from the Holy Quran that speaks about the concept of a leader or the fact that a community is connected to a leader in all time? Could you just give us some elaboration on this? Do you have any evidences from your research?
That's right. You see, the Imam that we believe in as Muslims, whoever you believe in as Imam, as a leader, as a Caliph, that Imam will be, Imam means leader. So either you believe in a corrupt leader or a just leader. Whatever you believe in, that Imam and that leader would be your leader in this world, in dunya, and in the hereafter. And that's why the Holy Quran says, يوم ندعو كل إمام كل أناس بإمامهم. We will call each community by the name of their leader. So let's say those who followed Musa alayhi salam, those pious followers, they would line up behind Musa alayhi salam. Those pious followers of Isa alayhi salam, the Hawari of Isa alayhi salam, they would follow Isa alayhi salam. But those who followed Fir'aun against Musa, they would line up behind Fir'aun. Those who followed the enemies of Isa alayhi salam, they would line up behind the enemies of Isa alayhi salam, and so forth, and to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those who followed Abu Sufyan, for example, they would line up behind him. Those who followed Muawiyah and ignored Ali alayhi salam, they would line up behind him. And those who, of course, who followed Ahlul Bayt salam, they would, of course, line behind them.
So
that's the result.
So this verse of Quran and this hadith are somewhat fused together and clearly demonstrates, as you've been mentioning through other sources, that there has to be an imam for every single time, including today, to the extent that when someone dies, they will be raised with that imam as their leader. So then my next question has to be, who is, well, I mean, I say it ignorantly, but I know I would like you to kind of explain for the masses, who is our leader and how can we really follow him?
Well, you see, as I've mentioned this last time, that one of our Islamic proofs and adillah is the Quran and the Holy Sunnah, which means the hadith of the Prophet and his progeny. The Holy Prophet ﷺ, in many occasions, in both books of the Shia and non-Shia, he mentioned the name of Al-Mahdi. He mentioned that there will be 12 rightly guided the Khulafa, Caliphs, and so forth. So he and كلهم من Quraysh, and they're all from Quraysh. So he mentioned their names in, for example, Bihar al-Anwar mentions one. If Ali passes away, then it's Hassan. If Hassan passes away, then it's Hussein, and so forth to the Al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Faraj. So the Prophet clearly stated their names in the books, and it's become like most frequent hadith with regard to Al-Mahdi, for example, Salamullah alayhi. So there's no doubt about refuting, or there's no way you can refute or ignore the fact that Al-Mahdi actually does exist or it doesn't exist. As I've said, the difference is that they say he's not born yet. We say he was born, and he is living now. His age was almost 1,200 years. And again, there's no doubt about the age of a human being to reach this level, because Nuh alayhi salam lived for about 2,500 years. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable. He has the qudra. He's able to give this life to a person, a saint person, like Al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Faraj. So he would be able to give this.
And also you've got the example of Ashab al-Kahf.
Ashab al-Kahf.
So I mean, yes. these miracles are nothing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He just has to say be, and then it is. So I mean, in regards to the duration or the time frame that we believe that the awaited one, Abdullah al-Sharif, has existed and still exists to today, now we start looking at the responsibilities of leadership. This is the question I'd like to ask. For example, with Imam Ali alayhi salam, he stated that he was the Imam. Unfortunately, events took place where he wasn't given his rightful position. But there were still followers that were dedicated to him. And he was apparent. As Muslims today in this era, in this time, what can we do to fulfill that responsibility of being, obviously never to the same degree, but someone like Maytham Tammar, Hujr bin Adi, how can we connect ourselves to our Imam and say, okay, look, now we want to be your companion. We want to follow you. What can we do in that regard? And what is our responsibilities to him?
In general, the general answer would be to that. We have to do three things. Number one, to obey Allah, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in overall. and to believe in the wilaya of Ahlul Bayt Salamullah alayhim, and to refrain from their enemies. These are the main things of the belief. Believing in Allah, al-wilaya lillah, the wilaya to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to believe in Allah, the authority to Allah, the absolute authority to Allah, and the authority to the Prophet and his pure family, and to denounce and to deny and reject the enemies of Ahlul Bayt Salamullah alayhim. This is the first thing. This is part of the aqidah. As the Sheikh al-Mufid says, that the wilaya and the bara is part of the Islamic beliefs. So the walaya and bara are the main things in the aqidah. And of course, according to the part of the sermon of Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha, when she said, وَإِمَامَتُنَا أَمَانًا لِلْفُرْقَةِ أو أَمَانًا مِنَ الْفُرْقَةِ. Our imamah, the following Ahlul Bayt, obeying Ahlul Bayt, is a safeguard from disunity. So we have to, in order to provide a unity within the Muslims, is to go back to Ahlul Bayt, to believe in Ahlul Bayt, obeying Ahlul Bayt. That's the main thing. To obey Allah, وَأَطِيعُ اللَّهِ, as the Quran says, وَأَطِيعُ الرَّسُولِ, obey Allah and obey His Prophet and the Prophet. وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. أُولِي الْأَمْرِ, according to Tafsir, they are Ahlul Bayt Salamullah alayhim. Those who come after the Prophet and take over the Muslim leadership. This is with regard with Imam Salamullah alayhi. Now, let me go back to the statement from Ahlul Bayt Salamullah alayhim with regard of the being of the Imam, either from Adam alayhi salam till today, until the Day of Judgment. The hadith says, لو بقيت الأرض, from Imam As-Sadiq Salamullah alayhi. He says, لو بقيت الأرض بغير إمام لساخت. If the earth remained without a leader, a godly leader, divinely leader, then it would be destroyed and doomed. Mm-hmm. So this means that this earth will remain undestroyed, undefected, as far as there's Imam Salamullah alayhi living, and even if he's in disappearance. Mm-hmm. As Musa went for 40 days, or almost 37 to 40 days, away from Bani Israel, and he appointed Harun alayhi salam. But he was away from them. Mm-hmm. But he used to be in the cycle of offering the alwah, the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the existence of the Imam at all time is a requirement for the safeguard of the earth and the universe. Now, Allah in the Holy Quran clearly states, as I've mentioned last episode, that وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُعَذِّبَهُمْ وَأَنْتَ فِيهِمْ. Allah was not going to send them a punishment while you were amongst them with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah won't punish the earth as far as there is a prophet or a saint, somebody who represents Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ مُعَذِّبَهُمْ وَهُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. And Allah won't punish them as far as they do istighfar and repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Imam Salamullah alayhi, his reappearance is, well, initially the knowledge is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will spread the justice, he will spread the amnesty and the peacefulness over the world. Of course, there will be a fight and battle against the Imam. The tyrants would basically raise against the Imam, and they try to fight back their kingdoms and rules. And of course, in brief again, the supporters or the representatives of the Imam will be 313 people. They are the most pious and best people that the Imam chooses, and they will represent him over the world, to rule the world. And the soldiers of the Imam Salamullah will be 10,000s in different countries. They would actually fight beside the Imam against the enemies. And Allah will give him the power of being able to overwhelm and control the world. For example, there's a narration which says they will use a weapon. Now, it says a sword, but actually it could be a weapon. We don't know exactly what weapon it is. That if they hit this sword on the mountain, it would divide the mountain into two. So Allah knows. I know we can see today the atomic bomb, the nuclear bomb, how could it destroy and even destroy. As they said, it can flatten London. The whole London can flatten. For example, if they used a specific amount of that bomb.
Just a quick question. You mentioned, like, for example, that when Musa alayhi salam went away for 30 days, he left a person in charge that the people could go and connect to. The same way, though that the Imam Ajazallah Sharif is in hiding, don't we have individuals selected by him that we can go to? And if not, why not? Why don't we have these individuals?
Well, one of the main reasons that the Imam Salam disappeared because the tyrant governments and rulers would pursue whoever is the Hujjah, is the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and chosen to be the Imam, the absolute Imam of the mankind. So, as they did with Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, as they did with Imam al-Jawad, Imam al-Rida, and so forth, they killed one by one because they were representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were the true Imams, the true leaders who deserved to be the leaders over the world. Thus, the Imam Salam himself is the only person who would be in charge, who is the infallible and all-knower in this world, in the creation. That's why the Imam Salamullah they spoke about this fact that because the Imam must be in occultation, in ghaibah, they appointed what is called as general deputies, the Nawab Am, Na'ib al-Am, so Niyab al-Amma. So they said that whoever of you, of the fuqaha, of the jurisprudence, who has the capability of being just, being pious, knowledgeable, and so forth, then the Muslims and the followers must follow this alim, this pious person. And that will be a general deputy of the Imam Salamullah alayhi, until the Imam himself reappears. So, because if he reappears now, if he appoints somebody directly, then they would be also killed again. Because they would, as we saw in the tyrant's time, many of our ulama were killed. Shahid al-Awwal, Shahid al-Thani, other ulama were killed and tortured because they represented the Shia in overall. Even today, if there were no, for example, security around the Marja''s house and so forth, they would be killed. And the enemies always try to find a way they can penetrate and go through and kill the Marja' and the Faqih, in any cost, at any cost.
So, Sheikh, now unfortunately we're coming to the end of the entire discussion of leadership. In conclusion, how would you sum up the entire topic? I know it's very difficult. We've taken many episodes to discuss it. But in conclusion, final moments, what would you say to give people a very nice summarized version of what we've been discussing?
Well, in overall, the imamah is part of the usul al-din. And it is a must upon every Muslim to believe in the leadership of the Muslims according to the teachings of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and appointment of Allah by His Prophet ﷺ. So the imamah is compulsory, is wajib, is part of the aqidah. However, if there are Muslims who do not believe in the imamah and they ignore the imamah, on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept their deeds because they did not follow the true and the belief doctrine and aqidah. But in this world, we would accept them as Muslims. The hukm will be Muslims. So we would treat them, we can marry, and we can buy their meats and so forth. But on the Day of Judgment, the matter would be different. Because the imam is part of the usul al-din. And without it, as I've said, the sharia won't be complete. It's like the Prophet comes and he gives part of the Quran and he leaves the rest and he says, this is just go and you Muslims sort out yourselves. The Prophet's mission was to complete the religion and pass it on to the rest of the leaders, of the imams, to interpret and explain to the Muslims. Let me just conclude also with regard to Imam al-Mahdi al-Sharif's existence, that interesting hadith about his occultation and why he's away from us, and what we make use of his disappearance and occultation. Now, the Imam as-Sadiq salamullah alayhi was asked by one of the narrators. He said to the Imam, how can people benefit from the existence of an Imam who is in occultation, in disappearance? The Imam salamullah alayhi said, in the same way as they benefit from the sun behind the clouds. This is the brief and the summary for the Imam's occultation. when you have sun behind the clouds, you would make use of the sun, even if there is clouds, if there are clouds. And the sun will still be shining behind the clouds. And the clouds would give you rain, would give you some cool weather, and the change of the climate and so forth, the weather changes and so forth. So there is some kind of benefit, even though the sun is behind the clouds. Same thing as the hadith says, that we also make a benefit with the Imam Salamun alayhi. He protects us, his existence being a protection for us. He reads dua for us, and reads dua for his reappearance, Salamun alayhi. So, and it's also, again, it's imtihan. It is a test, again, to simplify it. The actual fact of the imamah is that the people either they believe or don't believe. As the Quran says, those who believe, then they are in paradise. Those who don't believe, they are in hellfire. So we are in a test position, in a large room, as some ulama called it in the dunya, that you're tested. Either you follow the imam, either you follow, na'udhu billah, the enemies of the imam. And can you wait till the imam reappears, even if you die? Because some Shia, na'udhu billah, some of the Shia, they deviated and they said, no, the imam notion and doctrine is something, it's made up by the Shia scholars and so forth. So they ignored it, actually. So they failed. They failed the test by ignoring and denouncing and denying the fact of the Imam Mahdi's existence. So the imamah is compulsory on every Muslim to believe in it. It's part of the Aqidah principle. And as I've said, without the imamah, see the madahib, see the world, see the Muslim world, see the extremism, terrorism. This is because they ignored and they denounced and left the imamah aside, and they went and followed the corrupt caliphs and leaders. This is the result. In dunya and na'udhu billah and akhirah, they will see na'udhu billah the worse and the worse. So the imamah is a safeguard for all Muslims in the world, in dunya and in the akhirah.
Shukran Zain, Sheikh, as always, very, very insightful, very, very inspiring in regards to what you are actually saying. Inshallah, you, the viewers at home, have enjoyed this intense and very interesting discussion in regards to the concept of leadership. I know that I have, and inshallah, join us for our next episode where we'll have a different guest discussing another aspect of theology. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.